So, what about loneliness while traveling? Well, it's a tricky one, isn't it? If you are trying to live the kind of lifestyle where you don't necessarily have a home base, you know, where you are freed up from the normal constraints of having to go to a 9-to-5 job every day, having to report into the office for a certain time or whatever. If you have fought tooth and nail to achieve that kind of freedom that everyone bangs on about the whole time in this space and talks about as being so important, which I believe it is important, but it's not without cost, then congratulations, because you have pulled yourself out of the matrix, if you like. You pulled yourself out of the mainstream, and you have become one of the, I don't know, I don't think it's a 1%, but it's certainly a very small percentage, maybe a 5-10% or something, of people who are, you know, able to live life on their own terms and have a certain degree of freedom in terms of where they are geographically. But as I say, it does come with costs, and the biggest cost, as far as I can see, well, financial, but aside from that, the biggest cost as far as I can see is loneliness. Because we are, as we are always told, continually social creatures. And most of us, I think, to some degree, are addicted to the social scene that we find ourselves in. So as much as you might hate your job and you might hate having to go to work every day and the commute and all of that kind of stuff, I think in another way, you're probably slightly addicted to it. And I say that because I think I was. And I think I am somewhat addicted to being in London, which is where I am now, even though in many ways it's not the best place for me to be. It's not necessarily the best place for me to be in terms of career. It's expensive, it's busy, there's a lot of sort of negatives to it, but I'm somewhat addicted to it because of the people that I know here and the friendship groups I've got and just that kind of familiarity. So what do you do? What do you do if you've decided, okay, I want to live a different kind of a lifestyle, I want to do something different. Just crossing this road here. I want to do something different. I want to unplug. But then you discover that the reality of unplugging is actually quite lonely. It's tricky. It is tricky. The standard advice to give in videos when we talk about this stuff is you've got to have a strong group of friends around you, and that is absolutely true. I mean, you can't get away from that fact. And certainly the traveling that I did last year with Tusk and Mr. M, traffic noise, and the other guys was fantastic, and it is great. It is great to have that camaraderie. It is great to have those people around you. I think we're living in an age where, as I've said previously in videos this week, it's no longer necessary. It's no longer necessary for you to settle down, get married, have a nuclear family and all of that kind of thing. That's not to say you shouldn't do that, or it's not maybe a desirable thing, maybe that's what you want to do. But it's not necessary anymore, it's not mandatory. You could quite easily go your whole life as a guy, having fun, dating, traveling around, having a ball, really, living like a king. A king would have dreamt to have lived 100, 200 years ago. The possibilities now are really endless in terms of the kind of life you can have, and that is amazing. We live in this kind of fantastic time in history where you can be an ordinary guy, really. You don't have to be a multi-millionaire, you don't have to be a rock star, you don't have to be a movie star, and you can live this kind of amazing life. But as I say, there is this cost to it, and when you unplug, because people like to talk about unplugging, don't they? They like to talk about the matrix and all this kind of thing. But when you unplug, you also, you don't just unplug from the desirable aspects of it, the undesirable aspects of it, you also unplug from the parts of it that were kind of maybe holding your psyche together. And that is another reason, I think, why sometimes we will see people, content creators, who go a little bit nuts after a while, because you're trying to do something that really hasn't been done before in human history, or not to the same extent. I mean, if you think of some of the travel vloggers, dating vloggers that we've known, and by the way, it's not just people on YouTube that do this stuff. There's loads of people like day traders, people with online businesses, all kinds of things, people who are working remotely. So it's not just, but just for the sake of argument, just think of some of the people that we've known in the YouTube space who've done this kind of thing and got a bit crazy. Suddenly you're just presented with this incredible freedom to do basically what the hell you want to do. You could be anywhere. And that, I think, is a bit too much for some people. I think it scrambles their brains. I think it scrambles our brains, because I would include myself in this. So yeah, having a strong friendship group is important. And I mean, I'm very fortunate because aside from guys that I work with and that I collaborate with for videos and things, I've also got a very, very strong group of friends in London, which is one of the reasons I love London. I've got it mainly in London, so other places in the UK and elsewhere, but very strong group of friends, guys who I've known maybe 15, 20 years, some longer, 30 years, who know me very, very well. And I can call them literally any time, day or night, and they know exactly where I'm coming from, they know what I've been through, they know what I'm like, my temperament, etc., etc. So I can talk to them and I can get a pretty good read on any, given situation that I might be in. And that's really great. So I think that you do need to cultivate that. And if you don't have that, do I have any easy answers for how to get that? Not really, but you need to look at the people that are around you. And you need to really cherish those people where you feel like the friendship is a bit deeper, or has potential to be a bit deeper, and you really want to make an effort with those people. Because it is important. You are going to need that, particularly if you develop into a more nomadic kind of a character. You are going to need that. But I think the other thing, and this is perhaps what doesn't get talked about quite as much, I think the other thing is that we need to unplug a little bit from our sense of what conventional friendships and relationships are meant to be like. I think we need to unplug from the social conditioning that has led us to think that we have to have certain types of friendships, if you see what I'm saying. I think we have to unplug from that. So, I have a big group of friends, as I said. I've got people I can talk to at any time, day or night. It doesn't mean that I'm in their pockets. It doesn't mean that I'm going around for tea every Sunday. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that we're going on the school run together or any of that kind of stuff, which obviously, for me, I don't have kids, I'm not married, so that wouldn't make any sense anyway, but you know what I'm saying. You have to try to develop friendships with people who are in a similar sort of social paradigm to you. I think social paradigm is the right way to put it, okay? Because, make no mistake, right? I mean, I've got friends of all, going across the board, I've got mates who, maybe they are married, they're working the corporate job, they're doing all that kind of stuff. They've got a very conventional kind of lifestyle. And of course, I'm still friends with those people. I'm not going to not be friends with somebody because they're doing something different to me. If anything, I like my friends to be from as wide a group as possible. But you can't expect somebody whose paradigm in terms of their socializing and in terms of their life is completely opposed to yours to really get where you're coming from. It's just not going to work, It's not going to work. So you need to find friends who are on the same wavelength as you, really, and you need to find friends who are doing something similar to you. And that's why I personally get on very well with James Tusk, MLD, people like this, because fundamentally we are engaged in a very similar projects. You know, we're working in a similar space. I mean, of course, I can talk to people who don't have YouTube channels, who don't do this kind of crazy stuff that we do, about things that happen to me in the course of that line of work. And people get it and they give me really good advice. But nobody really gets it to the same extent as people who are doing, you know, who are in exactly the same boat. So, oh look at this. They got Damien Hirst, they got Banksy in here. It's kind of fancy. I don't know if you can see that. There's kind of like a stormtrooper on the floor. It's like a fancy gallery. I don't know if you can see any of that. Yeah, so you want to find friends who are basically in the same social paradigm as you, social and professional paradigm as you, because those are going to be your mainstay. Those are going to be your bedrock in terms of identification, because identification is really important. That is to say, do you identify with this person? Does this person identify with you? Do they have similar life experiences to you? Do they know where you're coming from at this particular point in your life, the way that you're living your life now? And if you can find those kind of people, that will really, really help you. Let's cross the road. Getting into the centre of town now, lads. That will really help you. Now, does that replace being married and going home every night and your wife putting on the dinner and you sitting down and watching EastEnders together? No, it doesn't replace it. And when people talk about loneliness, a lot of the time what they are thinking about is a, you know, committed relationship, a marriage, a long-term relationship, whatever, where they got their partner. Do you have to have that? Well, this is really the nub of the question, isn't it? Society tells us, or to be more accurate, society has told us, I don't think it's telling us quite as much now, but society has told us that you need to have that. I don't think you do, because I think a way you can organise your life, and I think this works, I could be wrong, but I think this works, is a way that you can organise your life is, if you want to, you can date, you can meet different people to date and have romantic relationships with, have sex with, whatever. And those people, it doesn't need to be serious with those people necessarily. Those people will be, you'll be close to them, you'll have fun with them, you'll have a great time with them, spend weekends, whatever. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to live with them or you have to commit to them for life or anything like that. You know, it's more casual than that, it's looser. And you notice I'm saying plural because we're not necessarily talking about monogamy here. We're talking about, you know, an understanding that these are sort of concurrent relationships, dating relationships, if you like. So you got that, and that satisfies the need for sex, for romance, for female company or whatever. And then you've also got these friends who are in the same social and professional paradigm as you. And those people, and you know, it may just be phone calls with those people or Zoom calls or whatever, you know. It's not necessarily like, if you're in the same city, yeah, you're going to be meeting up a lot, but if you're traveling, maybe you're going to be in different locations. So it might be remote, but those people are your bedrock in terms of keeping you sane, basically. Those are the people who are you're going to talk to about all of this stuff, all of the life stuff that's going on, and they're going to give you the counsel, they're going to give you the advice that you need to make decent sort of decisions, and as I say, basically stay sane, because that's the name of the game really with a lot of this stuff. And I think there's a reasonable compromise there. I think that could work. You know, because people, as I said in a recent video, people will say, yeah man, what's the end game? You know, when are you gonna dip out the market and find the one and blah blah blah. And look, I mean, that could happen tomorrow. Who knows? I can't foretell the future. But I do think that this model that I'm outlining here, this newer model that I'm outlining here, I'm just going to go down that street there, but it's a bit dark, I think, so carry on. I think can work, which is a mixture of covering off your, you know, romantic bases, but also having that core group of friends and colleagues who give you the additional support that you're going to need. And I think really with those two things, you're kind of going to be all right for the most part. There's a bit of music playing now. Tottenham Court Road. We're just coming round, Charing Cross Road, Tottenham Court Road station. It's pretty trancey kind of music this dude's playing. Yeah, I think those two things together will kind of keep you satiated for the most part. For the most part. Do you? What do you think? Put comments in the comment box below. Because we all need love, right? We all need love. We need to feel, but we need to feel like we are understood, and we need people who, if you say, right, this particular thing has happened to me, or I've got to make this particular decision. Should I do this trip? Should I spend my money on this? Should I do that? You know, blah, blah, blah. Should I buy this property? Should I sell this property? You know, you need the kind of feedback on those things. And a lot of people go to their wife for that. But maybe your wife is not the right person to go to for that. Maybe actually it's better to go to your coterie of largely male friends who are in a similar sort of social paradigm to you. But you need the other bit as well. You also need the dating stuff. You need the the sexual side of things, you need the romantic side of things. So you cover that off as well, but you cover that off by always being social, meeting different people when you travel, or when you go about your daily life, dating them, but making it understood that this is not necessarily a lifelong commitment, and it's not even necessarily a monogamous commitment, but it's, you guys are having a good time together. And that, I think, together, I think those two things fit together, and you can have a pretty good life. Because let's face it, generally speaking, we always sleep better when we're on our own in a bed, don't we? Pretty much. I mean, you don't need to be sleeping next to somebody for the entire rest of your life in a bed in order to feel like a real whole human being. You shouldn't need that. So these are some musings, just some things I've been thinking about recently. I don't have a definitive answer on this as yet. Obviously, it's all work in progress. We're all sort of feeling our way with this stuff. We're all thinking about this stuff. But as I say, put your comments in the box below. Let me know what you think. Does this make sense? Is it workable, what I'm saying? Let me know what you think. If you're not already, then get onto my free daily email list. The link is in the box below. You can grab my books about dating and relationships and stuff. Renegade Dating Blueprint. The link is in the box below. What else? Oh yeah, merch. Check out the merch store, link below. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there for now, but I hope you enjoyed this thought-provoking episode and this walk through London town. I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.